Hi guys, how you doing today? I hope everything is great. You're doing good. So here we are. We're going to do something which will be a little bit new for me, let's say, because I never really tried to explain something which is this deep inside of the dimensional system. But as it is related to the yin and the yang, and as here we are going to see, as here we can see how the yang is inside of the yin and the yin is inside of the yang. I thought it was a good thing to show you this here because some of you might know the yin and the yang. It's something which is widely known nowadays, even if people don't really know what the meaning behind. But yin and yang are really a really good description of the polarities inside of life. So here we are, here we go. Here what you can see, okay, I'm just going to put this here so it will be better for the view. Okay, I'm trying to give you a good quality video, but I see that it's not that good right now. Anyway, the image I'm talking about. So here you will have to be focused with me. This is the expanded part of the dimensional system. Okay? So after the 4. Got it? This is the contracted part of the dimensional system. So this is before the 4, before the 4th dimension. So here you got basically the 1st dimension, the 2nd and the 3rd. Around here, around this kind of fire, there is the 4th dimension. The fire is kind of the 4th dimension, but we're going to see it later. Here we will have what is between the 5th dimension and the 7th dimension. Okay? And this is what is above the 7th dimension. All of this here, that you can see. I won't really explain you the dimensions with this image here, but what I'm going to do is give you a broad view of the dimensional system. So here we can see it as the body. This is a fire here. Okay, this is the body because the body is energy compacted. And when energy compacts, as it is infinite energy, it becomes fire. And then it becomes material. So here it's a representation of the body, okay? It's a representation of the feelings, of the emotions. It's a representation of the challenge you would have in life, in the environment, the challenge that your environment is going to give you. This is what represents this fire. It doesn't really represent the body in itself. Sorry, it represents what I said, okay? The feelings, the emotions, and the challenge that you're going to live through your body inside of life in the 3rd dimension. Then, the little point here, because you will understand later why I told you it's the body, okay? Because it is material. We could say that the fire here is the body if we take it as not as a unity, but as a system. Okay? But if we take the body as a unity, it becomes the form, and so we have this here. If you take the body as an environment, it is the fire. It represents the body. Okay? But if you take the body as a form, it is represented by this little point here, this dark point here. As I've written it, so it's in French, but I'm going to explain you. Anyway, I'm going to explain you later. Then above here, there is the 8th dimension here, above. The 9th dimension here. And basically, I've written it to you here. This is 7 and plus dimension. Okay? This is kind of the 4th dimension. But it also have in this part the 5th dimension and the 6th dimension. Because dimensions are melting together, their frontiers are not clear. Okay? They are melting together at their frontiers. It's a real organic system. So yes, it's connected. Here we go. So, the fire here is what is compact, as I've written it here. So it equals the 3rd dimension and the 2nd dimension. Okay? You understand why I told you the fire is the body? If we take the body as an environment, so it's a 3rd dimension. Yeah, we agree that the fire could be the body because the fire represents the world. Okay? The material world. Then, I've written to that. I got to look out, so outside of my phone. This here is the center of the compact. As you see it, the fire is the compact part, and the little point here, the dark point, it's the center of the compact. As it is the center of the compact, there will be a going back of the energy. The energy will reverberate itself on this compactness, let's say, because we arrive at a point where it can't be really compacted anymore, kind of, as infinite energy is infinite. It can't go in all the little spheres of compaction, of density, you know? It can go as a self inside of bodies, but when we go lower in densities, it still goes, but it's more the the great one, the big one, the spirit, you know. It's the spirit that is inside of the not living forms. So this is done here. Now, this is said. As it is the center of the compact, so it will be expanded. Because coming at the center, us, the self, here, which are inside of living form, will go back at a point because we can't go too low, you know. So when we go back, we become kind of expanded. So it is relatively expanded. Let me explain you what I mean by this. We agree that the world is an association of compacted forms. Okay. But your body, it has expanded from when you were first created as two cells connecting together until you become a body. So it is a relative expansion. You understand what I say? The big expansion has been relativized, I think we can say it, inside of the material, inside of the experience. So this is a way of saying it. The body is a kind of relative expanded form. Relatively, why? Because there is a lot of compactive forces inside of the body to keep it together. A lot. So the expansion is relative. Relative to what? Relative to the environment. Okay? Most of the not living forms, they don't grow, they don't expand. So relatively to them, your body is expanding. Okay? So compaction is the yin, expansion is the yang. Here we say that at the core of the yin, we find a relative yang. This is all you need to know for the moment. And so it explains why inside of the scheme of the yin and yang, there is a white point inside of the dark part and a dark point inside of the white part. But those points are really more little and they don't have the same shape as the bigger part because they are relative. Okay? It's a kind of projection of the infinite energy, which would be a sphere. But inside of the manifestation, this sphere gets bent and inversed in its sense. So it becomes those kind of drops that we see inside of the scheme of the yin and yang. The kind of drops because this is a sphere. If you twist it a little bit, you will have kind of this form. I'm gonna draw it for you. So a sphere. You apply a pressure on it, you twist it. You take the upper part, you take the lower part, and you twist it like a towel, you know, a wet towel. So what you will have is this form. We agree on this, okay. Then you inverse it. How can you inverse this kind of form? You take the upper part and you make it go inside of the lower part. So finally we will have something like, okay. Then put into context, I'll show you why it would be like this. If you make this come inside of this, what you will have would be this form. We agree on that, I think. You take the upper part, you make it go down. But this form, if you try to put it in a sphere with its opposite, you see it's not a symmetric form. So it will have to adapt to its opposite. And then it becomes this. You see it here? Because if we put the two forms together, so first one is space, second one is matter, okay? Space has been twisted and inversed, we have this form. We do the same with the material, so I don't show you. It would be the same image, but it would be dark. Now I put both of them here. So this is the space and this is the material. I explain it to you because I think it would be helpful for you to know that, you know, inside of this context. We agree that we have the two forms here. Okay? If you take this part, you put it go inside. You have this form, and it will be the same for the opposite. So white, black. Now you want them to take the whole place because there is only polarities inside of manifestation. But also you want them to be equilibrated. You don't want one to take a bigger part of the other one. So the way you could have would be dividing the sphere in two parts. It would be a schematic version of it, okay? As you see it, it goes inside. So there is a part inside. What has gone inside, it's the material in itself. So here it's space. So what would be outside of space? Void. So inside of space, there is void, okay? It would be the same for the material, okay? Material is what? Basically, it is contracted energy. As it contracts on itself, it can contract so far that it will never go back again. It will lose itself inside of it. So it would be a kind of void, but not really. So we're going to talk about material. As you can understand, if material goes inside of it, what is outside of material? Space. So there is space inside of material, okay? As we want to keep the functions of each part in the scheme here, we're going to draw them. So here in the space, what I'm doing is drawing kind of the material, okay? Not the void, the material. But void and material are really close. Void is material compacted too much, you know? So it becomes void. Anyway, but it gets out of manifestation, so there's no void inside of manifestation. So here we have this that represents, let's do it this way, yeah. And this. Matter with space inside of it. And space with matter inside of it, okay? So now what are we going to do? We're going to melt those together because in the manifestation, the polarities are melted together, okay? It's not only the energy that inverts itself, and because energy is everything, so energy inverts itself and twisted itself a little bit, but as it is energy, it's the whole manifestation, which is the twisting and the reversion of the creation, of the first creation, the first space. So everything twists and reverses itself. So now we're going to make, because if they twist and reverse themselves together, they are going to melt. So there will be a unity made of two parts. But infinity is unity and not something else. So we have reversed the qualities of unity, and so we have succeeded in creating a world. Because unity is infinite. To have a world, you need finite forms. So you have to inverse its qualities. Now, let's make them melt together. Okay, let's make them spin. Here we are. We start to having a scheme that looks like the yin and yang. You see it? Because we make them spin together. There is a spinning which is done here. Okay. Then we have those inside of it. But what you have to know is that infinite energy is kind of shy. So it has disguised itself in the material. Okay. So as it is disguised inside of it, it will be at the core of it. I won't explain you here why it has disguised itself because it's more metaphysical than what we're doing here. We're in the dimensional systems. But I already told you. As it is disguised, it will try to go at the core of it, the things. So it will try to appear as it is disconnected from the thing. So we can't keep this here, this scheme here, because it looks like it's connected. And what we want is going inside of manifestation. So we want to have the rules of manifestation. And for a manifestation to appear as a manifestation, infinite light has to be disguised inside of it. It can't be visible because it would break the whole creation. It would be infinite again. And so it would break the creation, which has to be finite, you know? To have inside of it infinity. Anyway, so yeah. Because infinity in its own world would experience only infinity. And here what we want is to learn about itself and to expand its knowledge on itself. So infinity is itself. So it has to create a finite world to kind of lose itself inside of it, inside of what it is not, division, which is about the world. And for doing so, it can understand better what it is for real, unity. So it needs a world of division to finally find itself, which is unity. Okay? Because it finds itself through experiencing what it is not. So it knows better itself and it knows better what it wants. But there's also a lot of other things that I maybe just don't channel right now. I'm not, just not channeling it right now because it's not the context. So here you see it looks like the yin and yang. We have the core here because there are these guys inside of it. So you don't see it at first. And this image is representing the manifestation, so it has to be loyal to the manifestation. Understand? Here we have the final image of the yin and yang. Yang being the space having material inside of it. Yin being the material and having space inside of it. If you know a little bit about physics, what I'm telling you is obvious, but if you don't know, there is space inside of atoms. Okay? And we are material inside of space. Depending on the scale, it's going to reverse, We are material inside of space, we have space inside of us. There is other dimensions inside of us, other forms, And there's other dimensions above us too, so other spaces too, so. I think you understand what I'm talking about here. Let's continue, so. 16 minutes already. I hope you understand all. If you don't, you just gotta replay it. Okay? You know what? I will close this part here because I think it's enough complicated as it is right now, but not enough for you to not understand it. Replay it if you need to. Okay? It was a brief vision of the whole thing we're going to talk about here. I think it will be 3 videos. Anyway, see you guys. This was a pleasure. And a little bonus, we could say. In the next video, I will explain you deeper what is about this part here. For example, or this part, or how the spirit is a relative, compacted form. You will know it later, I love you guys. See you.